Hello everyone, the Nerdy Steve here, and today I will be featuring a Fires of Invention deck and Explore. The list is in the description below. I'm going to talk about the general plan of the deck, and then we'll play a couple of games. So, let's go. Also, brief quick aside, this might be a little quick video, mainly because I've already recorded it twice, and both times something happened with the mic and and recording process. So, sorry. With all that being said, this deck relies on Fires of Invention, which is a 4 mana enchantment that you can only cast 2 spells a turn from now on and only during your turn. But the trade off is now you can cast any spell for free if its mana value is less than or equal to the number of lands you control. So on your 4th turn, you can cast Fires of Invention and then maybe Chandra, Torch of Defiance. And then the following turn, you can cast Cavalier of Gales for free and then Cavalier of Flames for free. Use Cavalier of Flame's activated ability for 2 mana, which, because you cast it for free, you have available, and then attack with a bunch of really big, beefy creatures out of nowhere, right? And that's kind of the general idea of the deck, is specifically with Cavalier Flames, you want to be able to just generate such massive amounts of damage when your opponent can't be prepared for it. And then to get to this stage of the game, we have Brazen Borrower and Bonecrusher Giant, which are, these creatures that can deal deal with other things early on, like Stomp and Petty Theft. They're both 2 mana spells that we can use to interact with our opponent to hopefully let us live, for us to get a lot of value from our Fires of Invention. I also bring up the point with Brazen Borrower and Bonecrusher Giant as our 2 mana things, because we also have Keruga as our companion. And Keruga means our deck cannot have anything that costs less than 3. And the adventure part of Brazen Borrower and Bonecrusher Giant allows us to circumvent a little bit that companion constraint. And what's a cool thing about Keruga and how it functions in this deck with Fires of Invention is that because Fires of Invention makes our spells free, you can Fires of Invention on turn 4, and then on turn 5, you can pay the Keruga's companion ability to put it into your hand, and if you have your 5th land, cast it for free. So that's kind of like one of the cool interactions with this deck, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on. So maybe we can see some of that in the next couple of games. Okay, we have a turn 2 play with Brazen Borrower, followed by Divide by Zero, and then we can have potentially Fires of Invention on turn 4 with a Cavalier follow-up. So kind of everything is coming together. So fingers crossed. Now, our opponent is mono red, and mono red can be really, really good against us because we don't have a lot of. Sadly, we don't have a lot of interaction early on. We only have our 8 spells. And so we could be dealt a lot of damage very, very early on. And that is sometimes too much for us to, overcome. So we're going to prevent 3 of that damage here and take 1, which is, actually a lot for us to prevent. And so next turn we can, so we're going to divide by 0 here, whatever our opponent does, and then during our next turn we get to Fires of Invention and cast the environmental teachings that we're going to get with divide by 0. We're going to bounce that, and so we're going to gain 2 life and then prepare our 5th land drop for the Cavalier of Flames on turn 5, which we can cast both. And so that's also one of the things with this deck is you kind of can plan ahead, and you want to do that. I mean, obviously you should be planning ahead regularly, right? But in here it's very, very important. So we know what we're going to be able to do here. So we're waiting for our opponent to decide to attack. And then we are just gonna take the 2 damage, sadly. Then we will Fires of Invention. environmental sciences. Game 2, now got the we drew the land, which was a little unfortunate, but that's woe is me, right? And so what we have to figure out here though is we're under a lot of damage, right? And we're taking our opponent. Oh, Chandra is a really good card for our opponent to get right there. So we'll do this for free. We get to get rid of 1 and 2. And now we have to kind of figure out if it's worth it to Cavalier. Maybe we can Bone Crush the Robber and like block there. We're just we're not we're not at a high life total, everyone. And we have to kind of figure out if we can be aggressive enough or preserve it. And I don't know, honestly, what we can do. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. We're dead if our opponent gets to attack with everything. You know what? We'll do that. I won't attack. And we'll see what our opponent does here, because there maybe our opponent might not have that wonderful of an attack, and then we can get a lot of like cheese our way into a win by maybe stomping their only blocker and then brazen borrowing and attacking with a big hasty creature. Yeah, and that's what I was a little scared of. Oh, we need our opponent to not get stomped. That was very unfortunate for us. Now we go to 5 life. Oh, and our opponent has the Embercleave. Is this lethal? That's 6, 7, 8. We're at 1. Alright. So now, what do we do here? Huh. That's 6. We get to draw a lot of cards with Keruga here. And if we can Keruga into a Anger, that might be game. We get to get rid of Kari Zev here with this. We cast that for free. Activate Cavalier. And game. GG. So this is not a particularly good hand, right? We need another land to do anything. And we don't have anything to do before that. So we will mulligan. Okay. This is fine. We'll get rid of the Bonecrusher Giant. And we'll be able to scry with the Sphinx if our opponent is on an aggro deck. Which is another mono red deck. We can anger, and that's what we're gonna do here. So we'll get this red, and then we will turn 2 Den, followed by turn 3 Island. We're okay. So this can be a little scary. we don't want our opponent to annex. That's probably the worst thing here, because annex will have 4 toughness, and we won't be able to Anger of the Gods it away. But if our opponent can play something that we can Anger of the Gods here, we're really good. We're still gonna do it to get rid of these, and we're still taking 2 from Kumano, faces Kakazan. And our opponent's stomping us, okay. What we're gonna have to do is land, then the Sphinx. We're at so much damage. Fires. This. And now we get to at least block. If our opponent can't remove it, it's like kind of fine. Let's do this. We take 2 and go to 5. Opponent gets that. Fry away a land. Let's divide by 0, annex. And then, do you know what? We can get Keruga into our hand. And draw a couple cards. Attack here. Our opponent, if it is an Embercleave we have to worry about, I think we're still not dead here. The great thing is next turn we get to cast Cavalier and divide by 0 and keep Otawara mana up to bounce something during our opponent's turn. So again, we're thinking a turn ahead at how to use our mana. Embercleave here would be really unfortunate, but I do not think it is lethal. Right? It's close to lethal, but it is not lethal yet. So what I want to do here is this. I want to gain life. And then let's yeah, we can Cavalier here. Ooh, oh, yeah, no, this is great. So next turn, wait, alright, there. Next turn, we'll be able to win. Just with our Cavaliers, so I don't even know if we need to attack. I think we're fine here, though. Like, we're not gonna be able to get killed, right? Because we still have Otawara. Right? So if our opponent equips, this still blocks. If our opponent has anything besides I don't even know what our opponent could have to win. Double Stomp wins. Uh... And say I'm a little scared. I don't know what our opponent has. I'm doing this because we now can divide by 0 if our opponent was trying to be cute. And we can divide by 0 bounce spell if our opponent had that. So GG. We're good here. Well, everyone, thank you for watching. I know this was a short video, and it wasn't as, elaborate or as big as I usually like. But again, technical difficulties happen sometimes, so I'm sorry. But I hope, regardless, the games were at least somewhat fun, somewhat educational, and, you learned something from maybe my play patterns and what I was trying to do and how I navigated certain things. Because that's really the important part. even the really, really short games, you can still learn a lot, because I did. So I hope that at least was somewhat good for you too. With all that being said, if you haven't already, you should totally like, comment, or subscribe. And if you want to see me actually play much longer and without all these audio issues, you should watch me at twitch.tv/thenerdysteve. Right now, I'm climbing the ladder and constructed, and that's why I wasn't playing ladder now. Sorry. So if you want to see that, right now I'm using a lot of alchemy to try and climb and prepare for the next week's big Mythic Qualifier tournament. So I'd love to see you there. But with all that being said, I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, or afternoon, wherever you are, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.